Next, I would like to ask Ela Al-Khalai from IBI, the event sponsor. Thank you so much for sponsoring this event, Ela. Currently VP of Business Development, Ela has worked in the capital markets for the past 19 years. She's been with IBI since 1991, serving previously as a pharmaceutical analyst and later as research department director. Before Ela. We lost the mouse.
I need to get it so I can see your slides.
Okay, so thank you very much for all coming and for inviting us to participate in this event. I work in IBI in business development, and in that role, I have an ongoing interest in financial behavior and trying to understand our clients' process and decision making. And through that, I reach this very wide and fascinating area of negotiation, both negotiation of terms, but also negotiation as a decision-making process. And the slides, I have something like 15 minutes, maybe 8 or 9 slides, really take the area that I know better, the area of financial asset management, just as an example to what could go wrong in the process in any negotiation and in any decision-making process. So we'll talk just a little bit about my objective in entering a negotiation, my ego, or I should say the other side, and a little bit about group decisions, and we're done. So I would say when you enter into a negotiation, I think like Ed said, basically we're looking at a pretty complex situation often. And, you know, the first thing probably to do, and this is right in strategy and right in negotiation, is to decide where it is exactly we want to reach, what our endpoint in the negotiation is. So if we look specifically at financial asset management situation, what does our client want? I put caricature of the next movie for what women want, and the next movie, the title for that movie is They Want Your Money, Car, and House. So, you know, when a client walks into a financial investment house, what does the client want? It wants to give us $100 and leave a month later with $1,000, right? But obviously the objective, the question within the situation of negotiation between the client and the asset manager is not really about that. It's about a whole different set of objectives. And in any negotiation, usually you're not looking at the top of the hill that you want to reach. You're looking at a line, okay? And what you have to put on that line is what the endpoints are, or where you are within this line in this specific situation between capital protection and yield. Because obviously you can't have them both. So really what you want to find out is where you are on that line. What is your objective in this negotiation situation from wherever it is that you're starting to what point you want to reach. And specifically in the financial markets, obviously this is not an easy question to answer, and most people really have to keep focus of this objective, or whatever objective they were able to point out where they place themselves on this line, to be able to follow that through whatever process they go through in the maze or in life or over the next year or whatever that they have in the financial markets. So I put up here a graph of, there is a laser here, a pointer?
Could you use the mouse?
I'll use the mouse. Okay. So,
Does it show?
yeah. Okay. So I put two lines up here. One is a line showing basically high returns of stock market, and the other line is a much more steady capital protection type of line that goes through fixed income, specifically government bonds. And I think this graph is very interesting for many reasons, but the main point here is that you can't have them both. If you go to a pure equity portfolio, you will get probably higher yields, but you risk the fact that if you have to exit your portfolio at the downturns of the market, I'm losing the mouse here, okay. If you have to exit here or in the downturns of the market, then obviously you will not have capital protection. And okay, there are other things to be said about this graph, but like you said in the break, I'd be happy to elaborate. The other issue being, the other main point I wanted to make is really, I titled it My Ego, but it's really, when you go into a negotiation, I think any one of those thousands of books that you pointed out will tell you that probably the first thing that you should do is forget about your ego. If you want to be able to make a point and reach a profitable end to the negotiation, what you really have to understand is what is motivating the other side. What do they want out of the situation? What is in it for them? What is the main issue that you have to address? You don't have to convince yourself that your endpoint, whatever it is important and worthy and profitable. What you have to do is try to explain it to them. So really, what you have to do is you have to leave your ego out of the room. And it's not about, in the financial market, it's not about being able at Friday dinner to tell your friends, well, my portfolio reached this and that. And when you meet with your portfolio manager, is to tell them how smart you are and how successful you were in your performance in your portfolio, in your own portfolio management. So it's really about being able to reach the best out of the negotiation and leaving your ego out of the room. Overconfidence comes with that, and we are usually very, very overconfident in a large area of things, starting from the fact that my child, no matter what the teacher says, he's probably the smartest in the class. And if he's not the smartest, he's one of the 3 smartest kids in the class, and it doesn't really matter what these teachers say. And most people will tell you that they are way better drivers than the average. And the specific example I put here is taken out of a book that's called Your Money and Your Brain. And the example that he gives is in a very specific situation where they asked people how their last driving experience was. And still 2/3 of the people asked this question said that their driving was just excellent, they're very good drivers, and the last driving was also very, very good. But 100% of the people asked this question in this specific questionnaire were hospitalized after a very difficult car crash, which the police thought they were to blame for. So our overconfidence gets the better of us in most situations, and probably in negotiations as well. So just the last point, and I titled this after a paragraph in a book by Yaakov Burak. I put the picture of the book here. It's called Mavet Bevadat Hashkaot. And the reason he gave this name to this specific chapter was that he describes, it's very picturesque, he starts the chapter by describing a scene where a woman gets murdered in the streets of New York. And nobody called the police. There were many witnesses to the event. Many people from their windows, their home windows, were witnessing this event, and nobody called the police. And he takes this example to the point saying that, okay, in an investment committee, if you're not making your own decisions, you're making them either with your spouse or in an investment committee for your business. If it's not perceived by you as your responsibility, then you might not act, or you probably won't act timely enough or forcefully enough as you would if you were aware that it is solely your responsibility. So I think it's something that you should take into account, that who is responsible, who's really talking through this negotiation, who's, asses on the line, really makes a difference. Another point is that as people, have a tendency as being social creatures to conform. And this study by Solomon Asch, there are many following studies to this, but basically what he did, he had 7 people around a table, he showed them these klofim, slides, cards, and after 6 people on the table tell you that line A is similar to the line on the separate card, the 7th person will say the same. So when you bring this into a form of an investment committee, if the first 2 people say that you should invest further in equities because there are no yields in the fixed income market next year, and they're probably right about that given the interest rate, then the next person will probably, even if he thought differently, he will conform. He might not be very forceful about it, but he will conform. And so will the next person after him. So this is another thing that should be taken into account in the scenario of an investment committee or in group negotiations and group decisions. And one last point to this is that another describer of this situation is that usually in this situation the decisions tend to be more radical, because once we have to defend our position, we have to convince the other side. Just going through the arguments, just trying to convince myself why I'm right, what arguments I can use to bring my point further, to convince the other side. Just that exercise causes us to become more radical in our views by ourselves. And once the conformity comes into the play, then the end decision tends to be more radical than it would have if just 2 people were negotiating and the ego was out of the room. So these are my perspectives, and I'm very happy to lefanot et habama. Thank you.